Hello everybody, today is October 8th, Saturday, 2016, and yeah, here I am with another chess video, and I've made a couple changes. I think everything's slowly getting there. First off, we're using royalty-free music again, and I found this YouTube playlist full of soundscape, film music, ambient type of stuff, and so that's what we're gonna use today, because the royalty classical music, it's a hit or miss. Some of them are calm, some of them are extraordinarily lively, and kind of messes with me during the game, so I decided maybe this is a better way to go. And another audio change, I took a hand towel, one of those small towels that you might have in your bathroom, and I've wrapped it around my mic to use as a makeshift pop filter until a real pop filter comes in through Amazon pretty soon. So hopefully it'll sound a little bit better. Hopefully when I breathe it won't be so loud. So we'll see how that works out. And for some reason I turned off the mic and turned on the mic again. I changed the mic because I was playing some other video games, and now the mic, I don't know, seems to be receiving a little lower in volume, so I don't know. There's still things to work out, kinks and such. But anyway, besides the audio, actually, today I wanted to do something a little bit different. After my October 6th standard games, the two that I shared, I actually played a couple more that night, and I lost a couple more, and then I ended up winning one, and I was pretty proud of it, and so I shared it with a couple of my friends, and they had some questions about it. And so today I wanted to go through the game and maybe see, maybe share why I was proud of myself for playing, and also maybe see what my opponent might have done wrong. And maybe after we do some self-analysis, we'll also do some machine analysis. We'll get the AI mixed in there. So yeah, let's take a look at the game today. So let's see. We'll go to my profile, and we'll go to my classical standard matches, and apparently my victories aren't too high. Let's see. I thought they had a list of games, actually. Am I crazy? View the games. Here we go. Okay. So, alright. The one that I'm talking about is with HyperX. So let's try to find that. Here we go. Okay, so let's take this to the analysis board, and we'll take a look from the beginning. First off, let's start off by what I shared in the email with my friends. The reason why I was so proud of this game is mostly because I didn't think that I made any blunders, which is the biggest thing for me right now as a low-level player, trying to make sure that I'm not losing to just accidents on my side. Oh man, this music's weird. And second, I think the best part was, or the second reason that I was so proud of this game, was because I felt like I saw through his intentions, or I kind of understood what he was trying to do in a lot of places, and I was able to move according to that, not too far. Like, I was able to kind of understand, like, one-step tactics and two-step tactics, but that in of itself is pretty good. And so, yeah, why don't we just start on the game? So it starts with e4, and I guess I'm playing white, aren't I? Okay, so I started with e4. He replied with e5. Attack on e5 with my knight from f3. Then he counterplays with f6, attacking my e4. So then I just defend with my second knight, and then he kind of did a reverse Ruy Lopez, I guess, and this is apparently called a Russian game, a c42 3-knight game. So that's what started, and immediately, for some reason, I decided to do an Italian opening, I guess. I mean, minus anything else. That kind of would be what would be going on. And this is where we start getting a little abstract, I guess. So this first move that he does, so I didn't mind the tension or the pinning here, but that's stupid. Oh, actually, I didn't mind him trying to pin me here, because if he did take with the knight onto e4, then I could take. I still have a pawn on d2, so nothing to worry about. So since I wasn't going to be moving my pawn anytime soon, I guess the idea was to put oh my goodness, that's a line. To put pressure onto his weak f7. So I guess in a way that's kind of why he played that queen e7, to defend his pawn on e5 a little bit more, as well as, or actually to put any sort of defender on it at all, while also at the same time defending his f7 pawn. Okay, so far so good. Everything seems to make some kind of concrete sense to some degree, so maybe it's not as abstract as I thought. Alright, moving on. We have this. Now this, looking at it now, it is kind of a blunder, because after this move, if he decides to take here, I can't take at all because of this. That is a big mistake right there. So I decided to move my pawn from d2 to d4, putting pressure, I guess, on my e5, or his e5 pawn. And I'm starting to wish that I had left notes during the game, because without the notes now, a bit of the intentions that I had last night are a little fuzzy. But yeah, this is actually kind of a blunder, because as soon as he takes e4, I'm left a pawn down no matter what I do, I think. Anyway, let's see what happens. Well, actually, let's play that line and let's see what happens. He does this, which would be a smart move. It's a free pawn. I could do something like this. That's actually putting a lot of... That's a horrible move. Just kidding. I think during the game I kept thinking about this move, and it was just a bad move every time, because his knight did end up there. But there's not much I can do right now. I would have to maybe pressure over here so that I could try pressure with my pawn on a3 to force him to move his bishop on b4. But he could easily move over this way. Then I'd have to do the common exchange of pushing up my b4 pawn, or I mean b2 pawn up to b4. Now I'd be helping bishop aim straight at my weak f2 pawn. But after he moves that, finally I could take this. So I guess it's not too bad. Interesting. I do consider this still a blunder on my part for me to have moved my pawn up there. I think that was a bad move. But I didn't... Oops. But I did not realize that if you do take with knight on e4, with this play, you can actually just take the knight afterwards, unless I'm missing something. That's actually really interesting, because he is in danger, and if I provide another danger immediately that black has to deal with, then there's really nothing he can do. That's very interesting. Alright. Anyway, let's move on. After I made the blunder, thankfully, black decided to make a pretty safe move up here. d6. I'm not exactly sure what d6 is about, necessarily. I guess just going for development and opening up some space in his center position there, while also defending his e5 pawn. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this move. Potentially I could see maybe something like this as well, but with two attackers there, I guess it makes sense that he can't do that. So yeah, I think that was maybe I don't know. It's an interesting move. Moving on, I still don't see this gigantic blunder, and I move up to d5 there, taking center control for realsies. And at that time, I didn't see the I didn't see the weakness of that line, the knight e4 line. So all I was doing was focusing on this pawn and how many defenders it has, and it's looking good. It's looking strong. So I felt pretty comfortable on that point, not realizing how dangerous this was because of this. What an idiot I am. What an idiot. Anyway, moving on. Black plays d7, trying to get his white squared bishop into the game. And I mean, a theory that I've been thinking about recently is that on the white side, the light squared bishop is supremely important in the early game because of this line, and also if he happens to be on this square, this line, or this square. These two lines basically really put a lot of pressure on the king's side, whereas on the black side, the dark squared bishops are extremely important as well. I found this to be probably true. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it has a lot of potential. And so in games, I've been trying to save my white squared or light squared bishop as often as I can, whereas I'm slightly more okay now with trading my dark squared bishop on the white side and vice versa, or rotated on the other side. Rotated? Color transfer? I don't know. The opposite is true on the other side. Whereas if I'm playing on the black side, I like to keep my dark squared bishop, and I'm slightly more okay with trading my light squared bishop. Of course, then there's the other part where, depending on pawn structures and how closed off the game is, then the willingness to trade off bishops becomes a lot more readily apparent. However, just in general, when the game starts off, if there's any kind of bishop to knight exchange, and one is for light squared or dark squared bishop. I really like to take that into consideration now. So yeah, for this move, it seems like Black is just opening up avenues of attack, trying to get his development still going. That's nice. I think he's ahead in development right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. And yeah, I mean, he can castle now, and he can do that, and he'd be set. He has 2 steps for development necessary, whereas I still need to... Oops, that's not a real move. That would be completely illegal. Yeah, for me, I still have quite a bit of development to go. 3 more, so I'm down by development by 1. So let's see what happens now. Okay, I further development with that. I think at this point, I do remember at some point in the game, I do remember thinking, wow, this pawn is kind of in trouble. And so castling definitely helps us. And another hope I think I had was of doing something like this. But again, that would just bring the same issue, except now the rook can take instead and open that up. So we'll see how that goes. He castles as well, just moving on development. And here is my dark squared bishop now coming into play. And this is a good time. This is a good time to do it. And I think I remember now, the reason why I did my castling was so that I could specifically do this. Because I think the line I had read was, oh man, I can do a nice little pin here. But if I move this right now, he can still freely take, and I can't, I just saw a line, but I don't remember. Huh. There was a reason. I just brain farted. I think it had something to do with this knight, because as soon as I lose this knight, this bishop loses complete control, and then queen can take. But I don't exactly remember what it was. It's the same thing that I talked about earlier in the game. I wish I could remember, but for the life of me, it's just completely gone. Well, oh, the move order on that was different. Okay, so never mind. That was a bit of fuzzy thinking. I think that's illogical. It doesn't make any sense. So it could have still worked even before the castling then, because I could have still d6. I could have still done this even if he does this. I mean, this would be a horrible move now. He can't do that move, in fact. So that would be actually a good counter to him trying to pin me over there. But honestly, I mean, oh, yeah, I mean, he would take, so that's horrible. Wait, what happens with this? Both are rooks. I have a queen. He has 3 minor pieces. I have 2 minor pieces. So that's horrible for black. Yeah, that's a bad line. Yeah, that's pretty cool. What if I had done this and then he had moved though? Let's see, I'd move over here. What would be a good move for black here? He can't go there, obviously. That's just direct. He can go there, but then that would be blocking his ability to move, and that reduces development. I think it's better to do this, maybe think about this, letting him out that way or this way, so that he can focus that way. I think that would probably be good. So this isn't even really pinned now, so he could, after that, decide to take. I could still castle after that. That would be good, because then he can't take. That would have been interesting. That would have been a pretty good game. So yeah, I don't exactly know what I was thinking. I thought I had to, for some reason, I thought I had to castle, that I was free to do this. But now looking at it, I was free to do this anytime I wanted, actually. Or only, of course, once the queen had come here, or... Actually, the queen's position doesn't matter, because even if it was here, it doesn't matter. Only after the knight had popped up here would have made sense. But of course, then there's always this, but as I said before, black bishop, he's taking a lot of black spaces anyway. Oh, I'm willing to do that. I don't think I'm willing to do this, though. Yeah, that'd be bad. Anyway, that's an interesting line. Delete 10 moves, delete this line, and I guess we'll just go with what happens. So, after I castle, I decide to put a pin on his f6 knight onto his queen on e7. He leaves the pin there, and then he moves his... he develops his knight further on the left side of the board, or the queen side of the board, on a6. Now I'm finally putting pressure on the bishop on b4 instead of developing. I'm not exactly sure what my reasoning on this was, but his reply with bishop a4, I don't know. I mean, that just seems pretty obvious. And I think the move order is slightly messed up there. In fact, question, after I take this... Oh, he does that, so I have to take. I was gonna say maybe there was a chance for me to use my rook to take that bishop, but there wasn't. But yeah, so I think maybe he saw a line that I didn't, or he saw a tactic that I didn't see, but he made a blunder, putting himself into a lot of problem areas, actually, because this is a lot of stuff going on. The potential line I was thinking of is doing something like this, but because the reason I was thinking this was maybe if I do an innocuous move like this. Now this has a lot more power now. Now I have to get out of the way, potentially here. And that would be an amazing space to control, actually, for black. But it would require me having to do a very silly move. Once I do this, he's doesn't matter where he's kind of effed. But seeing as how he took with the bishop first, I am forced to take with my queen. Then he puts pressure on my queen. So this line here with his bishops on the queen side, that was his biggest blunder, I think, of the game. And at this point, I am up. Let's see. We have both our rooks, both our queens. I have two bishops. He's lost both his bishops. Yeah, so I'm up 6 points in material. And that's, I mean, that's pretty harsh already. So he moves his pawn up to a5 to defend his bishop at this point. And at this point, I think I've forgotten all about development. And perhaps in my mind, I'm thinking that I am already developed to a point. So I move my, I start moving my knight up to b5, thinking about taking more of a controlling role in this game. Taking some good squares there, putting a lot of pressure on black. I mean, potentially, I would really like him here so that I could take these corners, but that's probably asking for a little too much at this point. I think this is another blunder on this point. I'm not exactly sure what the line he was thinking was. Perhaps he was thinking I would take here, and this would happen, which would be better for him, but oops, goodness. Let's see. Where is this? This is much later in the game. Alright. So, yeah. I just take his knight there. And then the other question. Oh. And I don't think he saw that, I mean, he might have wanted to just trade. But the trade is bad, too. Even if I didn't do this, like, I can just do this. That's a bad trade. I think maybe at this point he had given up on the game, losing 2 bishops like that. So he does that. I take his knight there. And his next move is get out of the pin finally. Oh, well, not only does he get out of the pin, but he puts pressure on my hanging knight there. So I have to move the knight back. And once the queen is out of the pin, he decides to move into g4. But then there's a hanging piece up here. His pawn on b7. And now I'm putting pressure on his rook. And I'm keeping tempo by pressuring him as such right now. And I put pressure on his queen to get the hell out of this area. Especially because a lot of my power pieces are on the left side. This is scary to me. This is pretty scary. Queen does exit that way. I'm curious as to know what would have happened if he had exited this way. Another choice he could have had is to do this. Oh no, just kidding. That would be a horror move. What am I saying? So the only place he has to go is here. And that's pretty harsh. That's definitely not where you want your queen to be. Kind of stuck in between a hard place. Yeah. I mean, if I play my moves correctly... If I play my moves correctly... How would I have to play this? There we go. If I played that, then he'd be in a shitload of trouble, actually. So yeah, that's not a good place to be. So the way he exited, I think, was a good call. Trying to get to more open spaces. That's where the queen can really be used to its full potential. Again, there's another hanging pawn, so I'm just slowly cutting him down. And then the rook, his rook comes out to put pressure on my bishop. Of course, I'm sure most of you saw this. Bishop to d5, putting pressure once more on his queen, who can't go to any of these squares. So he's kind of relegated to one of these places. Let's see where he goes. Oh, he decides to take with his knight, but he's still put in the same kind of place. This avenue is still dangerous. This avenue is still dangerous. So he's still... he can't go there. He can't go there. He can't go there. So yeah, he has to still only go to one of these places. He does go there, and I don't think he saw that. That was his biggest blunder. The queen to queen trade, and that's when he resigned. So yeah, that is my game, and for how proud of it I was the night I played it. Maybe it was the lack of sleep that made me so emotionally proud of it, but looking at it now, it seems like a pretty standard game. I've had decent games before, but he made a couple of blunders there, and I thought there were a couple of tactics that he was trying at some point, but without having taken the notes now, it's hard for me to remember what I thought his purposes might have been for certain moves. And a couple of his moves were very questionable. So now, before I take it, I kind of want to do some computer evaluation. I want to share a couple of thoughts from my friends. He was hesitant about me, being too proud of the game. He said, "Well, look, guy made a couple of blunders. Bao, you made a couple of good moves, but I don't think he was thinking on a very high level." So I think he's right. There were a couple of pretty hard blunders on his part. So let's start with this. His initial thought for me is, what's up with knight on c3? Knight on c3 is to defend my pawn on e4 while also developing a piece. That's the reason that I did this. And his question was because why didn't Ruy Lopez? I can only Ruy Lopez in this scenario if he defends, because without the defender, the Ruy Lopez doesn't have actually anything to pin. Because once you do have the pin, it stops him from being able to do this so readily. Because with the Ruy Lopez, what happens is then you've truly committed to the idea of having this knight here. He can't move from c6 because as soon as he moves, then there's attack, found attack, discovered attack on b5 bishop to the king, and that's how the Ruy Lopez works. So when you have in the main line, when you have the knight come here to counterattack this, you can't follow up with the Ruy Lopez, because let's say you do try to Ruy Lopez from here. I mean, honestly, he doesn't have to even worry about that. He can just go for something like this. Start messing with you in all sorts of ways. I don't think this is even the best response, probably. Haven't really thought out that line before, since I don't have much experience. This music's getting scary. Anyway. So yeah, the c3 was to develop as well as to defend and take control of this square here. His consideration is that bishop c4 is stronger, and bishop c4 is a very strong move. However, you are still leaving a pawn in a pretty dangerous situation. So the bishop c4 does come out later, though. He says if black is a positional player, he can trade his bishop for your knight, double your pawns, and control the middle of the board. Maybe the 3-knight game is an opening. I'm not familiar with it, though, and it's definitely not common for newer players. Well, I think for me, although I am trying to stick to one opening, when it comes to readily defending or sticking to some of the theorems I have or rules I have for chess, I am willing to sacrifice my knowledge of lines or openings to adhere to some of these rules and ideas, such as don't leave hanging pawns, don't leave hanging pieces of any sort, develop as quickly as you can. You know, get your king into a safe position, attack the f2, get the rooks to be able to work in coordination, and in general get all the minor pieces and major pieces working in coordination together. And a couple of other things, as I've shared with you, light bishop, same colored bishop is most important for, or light colored bishop on the white side is important, or the dark colored bishop is important on the dark side. That's another kind of theory I have, but that's completely game dependent, depending on pawn structure, depending on how open the board is. On a very closed board, I'd much rather have my knights, I think, but also positionally dependent. And then third thing that I found useful is keeping in mind keeping your materially lowest pieces up forward in the attack. So keeping the pawns up forward, then the minor pieces, then the major pieces, and working all three of those in coordination, I think has been the kind of rules that I've been following. Second thing that he talks about. Oh, let's go with this. He can trade his bishop for your knight, double your pawns, and control the middle of the board. So he told me to do this. And then I'm not sure what he means by control. Take the bishop for my knight. He can trade his bishop for your knight. Maybe he's talking about on the main line. Okay. Oh, he's saying here, if black is a positional player, he can trade bishop for your knight, double your pawns, right? Now I have double pawns, and control the middle of the board. Sure. That's true. That would be true. Problem would be that I still have a great position for an attack on his f7, while he has lost, as I think, the better bishop in this trade, or the more important trade, at least in the more important bishop, at least in the opening. And now if I do kind of some kind of fried liver-ish, oops, that would be the exact counter to that. If I did some kind of fried liver-ish thing, this could potentially mean I could get a free rook somewhere there. And you know, as I've said in previous videos before, I don't necessarily know if I personally think that double pawns in certain scenarios are that bad, especially for if they're closer to the center, or if they're kind of relegated to the push pawn or the pawn storm region, especially if you can get it into some sort of, let's say, like that position. I actually I don't know. It seems like there's potential there. I don't think it's the best thing in the world. I would rather have my pawns, obviously, connected together. But compared to a pawn that's by itself to a double pawn, I would definitely take the double pawn over that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about this trade. Taking middle control is important, but losing a minor piece for that, that's I think that's pretty hard. And then he says his second point is not trying to burst any of your bubbles, but he handed you the game. He went for some sort of attack in the bottom, the queen side of the board, the bottom queen side, that gave you a piece for no reason. I absolutely agree. I have no idea what that was. And then at the end, he's talking about the queen for queen trade. And yeah, I mean, there were plenty of other places that he could have moved his queen, and he just decided to make the most completely wrong queen move. None of these squares, as we've talked about, are safe. Just don't go here. Don't go anywhere around here. Just don't do it. Of course he can't go there anyway. I mean, he has avenues of potential exit over here, but I think Tom's right, or my friend is right, and I've said his name. I think my friend Tom is right in saying that, yeah, he just handed the queen to me. I keep doing that for some reason. Anyway. So yeah, I think those are most of the questions he had, and I agree with him. Those are the two biggest blunders he made in this game. Over here, when he moved his bishop over and just gave me a free bishop, and then attacked my queen without any sort of trade in mind, and then trying to do something with his knight over here. I don't think this was too bad, but then I don't think he read the trait lines very carefully at the end there. Yeah. But anyway, that's the game, and I think I kind of remember now why I was so proud, because there were some trade lines where some of the orders, I think, were favorable on my side. So, as a final part, this is not something that I usually do, is I'll try to use the computer analysis here. There's a show threats, huh? That's interesting. And actually, I would like to do the full computer analysis. So let's try doing that. Well, this game doesn't look very exciting to actually analyze very much. Apparently it was just a game of me slowly strangling him. Yeah. And there were definitely times when he had the advantage. I'm guessing these are times when he could have definitely pinned me and taken a pawn from me. But yeah, let's start from the beginning. So, nothing really mentionable here. First inaccuracy that the computer points out is here. He says best move was actually one back. This was the questionable move, apparently. Oh, for black, best move would have been this. That's interesting. And then that line continues as such. So, bishop to... I guess this is the line that Tom was talking about. Bishop takes, and then, in fact, instead of taking center control with the pawn, knight comes in, because that pawn was vulnerable. And then that would be interesting. So white's up there. And this is where the computer stops suggesting moves, but I honestly don't know who's that much better off. It's pretty even. I feel like there's actually no need for the bishop to trade at all, actually. And I don't think the queen move was very strong, but I don't know if the bishop move was the best way to go. Especially since at the end of it all, we end up in a pretty similar state of favorability on the computer status. So then I do this move, and this was a mistake. Absolutely, it was a mistake. And he's saying I should have done this, okay? Putting his knight and queen in a fork, but then you have that trade, knight to knight trade, and then you have attack from the pawn side, but I can just take. This puts me in white's favor, but I'm not exactly sure about this line. That's the thing about computer suggestions, is that I'm just not good enough of a player to understand any of this. Like, as soon as I see this, I would just say, okay, fine. And it seems like, I don't know, white's doing okay. That's a potential move. But now I come back here and, you know, I have the safety here. I can push over here. And this might be something I have to do. But something like this. Oh, I see. That puts me in a double fork. You're right. So that would be a bad place to go. That definitely would be. That's not a good place. That's not a good place. There's not a lot of good places for that guy to go, is there? I see. I see. That's interesting. Well, I don't know. Well, with the computer analysis and also my moves, it's kind of hard to figure out what exactly would be the right thing to do at this point. But I think maybe safest move might be to do that. And now, yeah, definitely black can start putting pressure over here. But what he really should be doing is putting pressure over there. So maybe, you know, that's good, but this is potentially even more favorable. And then moving the queen up there, and then boom. That would be pretty sick. But apparently that's not a very good move for black. Yeah. This is what makes computer analysis so hard. I just don't really understand anything that the computer suggests. We just end up playing a computer versus computer game in a while. Anyway, going back to the game, let's just keep on looking at our mistakes and inaccuracies. Next big mistake was apparently on his part, or an inaccuracy, where he moved up his pawn to d6. They're suggesting that they should have done that, and then that line goes like that. Funny thing is, I thought I had played a decent game, but looking at this now, it just seems like all through the middle game, it was just full of mistakes and inaccuracies on both sides. That's really, really interesting. Just shows how noobish I am, I guess. So, take with the queen, come back again. So this is for black to play, and they're trying to suggest a strong line. So it's kind of forced that I have to take with the queen because I can't move my c3 knight, and then the knight comes, his knight comes out, queenside knight comes out to c6. Gotta move my queen back. I don't know why I have to move the queen back so much, but I'm sure the computer has some good reasons why. Now bishop takes, pawn takes, and then queen comes in. I have to move with my bishop if I defend with my queen. I guess I could defend with my queen. I don't know why instead of doing that I can't do this. Oh, because then this might happen. That's not too bad. Yeah, I can just take with this. What's he gonna do? Seems weird that I couldn't do this. I guess because it's pinning. Material-wise, we're even, I guess. I do this. It says that black is in favor, and I think potentially it's because of the position of everything I have. That would be bad. Is it his turn? He can take there, I can take there. Neither of us have really developed our sides very much. But yeah, I don't know. That's very interesting. Second mistake, apparently. When I pushed up, that was also a mistake. And in fact, I should have just castled so that I would get out of my pin faster. That's understandable. And and this would put me at slightly favorable. I don't know. That doesn't seem too bad. And then another move by black. That's supposed to be a mistake. He should have instead taken with the knight. Of course, that's definitely out there. That's a really interesting line that they're telling us to do. That's hilarious. Material wise, I guess we're even, except he has a lot of potential for coordination with his piece as well. I'm kind of up here with the bishop and the queen trying to work together. Moving a rook out, I guess, would be good, but that's an interesting line that they're suggesting. Alright, so after that move, I do my castling. That's also a mistake. I should have just moved my queen. I'm not sure what the true benefit of that is, but I think with so much analysis done so far, my brain is starting to kind of fume. I can feel it getting very warm now. And then he castles, and that's also a mistake. And instead, the line that he should have taken was the trade. I mean, these positions do look very favorable for white. So trade there. So he's saying trade there. Go there. Take that. And he can potentially go to these squares. So I would probably do this first, actually. But he could still go here. Yeah. So maybe not. I mean, this is safely guarded, this is safely guarded. So really it's this side that we need to safely guard. So something like this actually would be good. And then coming here. This is apparently still pretty bad for black, or I mean for white. Positionally, I guess I wasn't in a very good place. Oh, I didn't see that. That's hilarious. Anyway, so let's move on. Then I do my pin. And that wasn't an accuracy. Oh, that wasn't an inaccuracy. We got a couple moves where we don't have any inaccuracies for a second, which is nice. So his questionable push of his, or that wasn't questionable, but he moves this knight out, I guess. And then I put pressure on his bishop. And then this was a blunder, and I agree, because now I just take. Their suggestion was to just start the trade. That's fine. I think that's correct. Just taking the trade is better than making a gigantic blunder. Blunder was made. Then I take with my pawn, but they're saying inaccuracy. Take with my take with my knight. Bishop moves back. And then positionally, I have him cornered. Wow, this is incredibly strong. This looks good. Let me take a look at that. Again, he has to move back. Well, I mean, he doesn't have to move back, but moving back's decent. The problem is some of these moves I don't really understand. It just seems like black's giving away position for no real reason, without contesting. For instance, in this scenario, bishop has to go back. When this happens, though, there's no reason why knight has to go back right now. Oh, well, that's definitely not something you want to happen. But you could start with something like this. Right? Oh. Jeez, I keep missing this line. There you go. They're saying to just keep on trading. And he sees this very favorable, mostly because I think I'm just up a minor piece. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, let's go over here again. And so he makes this other suggestion, or I mean, makes this other play from bishop to c2, taking my pawn. And that was his second huge blunder. And now, no matter what I do, I don't think it's easy for him to equalize at this point. He does have a bit of my pawns. But yeah. I mean, after this, there's really no need for analysis. We get into the late game here, and it's just me strangling him, and him just running away a bit, and then a couple of trades, and then the biggest blunder there. And that's it. So yeah, I think game-wise, couple of blunders on both of our, or a couple of mistakes on both of our sides. My biggest mistake, I should have defended this pawn. This pawn wasn't actually defended, and for somebody who plays Ruy Lopez, it's embarrassing that I didn't see this connection. Yeah, making that D4 move is just not the right move to make. So don't do that. That's bad for me. And so if I wanted to take that into a general theory level or more abstract level, the idea would be when you're defending, make sure that you're not being pinned anywhere. And when you're moving, make sure you're not leaving a pin piece in a bad position. So there's that. And then my opponent made quite a huge amount of blunders, 3 big blunders, losing the queen and losing both his bishops. And then finally, on just a practice side, the computer analysis, I still don't really quite understand it very well. Mostly because I think I don't read the game to as far a level as the computer does. But that's alright. I mean, I'm playing humans, I'm a human, so both of us will keep on making mistakes that are different from what the computer would suggest. And that's how it is. Well, I'm pretty talked out, and I'm pretty tired now, so I'm gonna cut the video here, and I hope you guys enjoyed the analysis, and yeah, have a good one.